All right. So right. So hope everything visible, slides visible. So in the last class, if you just recollect that the physical state of a quantum particle is determined by overall mathematical function called psi. Here it is represented as so-called psi of r and t, position vector time. So specifically it is shown as a function of position and time, but it can be function of anything. It can be momentum, and also it can be some angular momentum, various things it can be, but here representative one is the psi. And also we have shown that this psi can be spanned into a Hilbert space basis vectors. So they are basically each of these basis vector can be a eigenfunction of the quantum system, and that eigenfunction actually solved. I think this is a problem. So I suggest all of you join exactly in time, otherwise you have to switch back and forth for accepting things. So it's fine. And so all these eigenstates are can be considered as a basis vector in Hilbert space. But next thing is that well, all this wave function or physical state of the quantum system, if it is known to you mathematically, how to find that when you measure something, some physical quantity, some real quantity you want to measure of this quantum system, it can be quantum particle, yeah. So if you measure using your equipment in your lab or instruments you use, then what you can expect that measurement outcome, what is the measurement outcome? So here I just put down four important points that you see. The first point, the wave function psi r t itself is not physical. As we have already discussed earlier, it is not really physical, meaning uh, you cannot really directly measure the value of psi r t. It's a complex. It's a complex function. So complex function, you know, it cannot be measured. In anything you measure, that is real. So here, the psi r t from the mathematical point of view, it is actually not measurable. So when it was actually asked Schrodinger himself that what is this IRT, he says that I don't know what it is, but it is actually validating the equations and you can get all the solutions. But later on, I think, as I discussed earlier, that Copenhagen interpretation, especially Max Born, he says that since it is a complex, we'll come to that point why it needs to be complex. So since it is complex, what you can do, you can just get a norm, or maybe taking complex conjugate and multiply. Then you get what you call that psi star, and that is actually probability density. So you can find the probability. So that is the speciality of quantum mechanics, that probability you cannot deny. You have to just consider probability. And if something is that probability, your measurement also will give some kind of probable outcome. Okay. So based on that, you have to survive. You have to interpret all the phenomenon. So the second point is that physically measurable quantities are represented by operators. So in quantum mechanics, you know that anything, any physical quantity, any measurable quantity, you have one-to-one corresponding operator. You should have. You have to mathematically define. because psi is a mathematical function, right? Complex function. So you need a mathematical expression called operator. If you just operate on it, operate means, you know, so operator means operator on a function means what? So basically, if you have a function, some polynomial, and then you are just making a derivative, so that derivative is the operator. And it can be just simple multiplication also. Okay, so that is what you have to rely on. And here it is just shown that each operators will have their own eigenfunction and eigenvalues. So although we are saying that this psi rt is the physical quantity, everything mentioned within this psi function, but a certain operator will have its certain eigenfunction, spatial distribution, spatial mathematical function you should have. Okay, so if you have some kind of measurable quantity, suppose you want to measure the momentum, you should have a specific momentum operator, mathematical expression, and you need a function, that physical state or wave function, that should be function of momentum also, so that as a eigenvalue you should get the momentum value. So fourth term is that mathematically for a given operator, so that is what I said, I guess, yeah, is an eigenfunction phi I and an eigenvalue OI, such that this is the thing. So this equation number 42, if you see, if you have a eigenfunction phi I, okay, and then a corresponding operator O, this operator can be anything, measurable quantity, which you are expressing in terms of mathematical function. So if you operate, then you get some value which is supposed to be real, and then you get same function written here. So it is actually giving you the same function with certain value multiplied. So that in that case, this OI is called the eigenvalue for the eigenfunction phi I for the operator O. Okay, so this is the main formula for any measurement. If you just try to get, you need to have eigenfunction corresponding to that operator, and then you get this value. If it is coming, then you can say that, well, this is your outcome, this is your eigenvalue of this corresponding operator. Now you know that this wave function, whatever wave function psi we have, that can be spanned into Hilbert space, and each of these bases can be eigenfunctions. So now let us assume that the eigenfunction, all the eigenfunctions, they are just written in this form, in this curly bracket here, phi I. That's a set of eigenfunctions. Okay, all the functions together you are writing phi I. I can span over 1, 2, 3, 4. So phi 1 is one eigenfunction, phi 2 is another eigenfunction, phi 3 another eigenfunction, and so on. So all of them together you are writing in a set form like this. So for the Hamiltonian operator we have introduced earlier. That is nothing but the for a particle, it is just momentum energy, total kinetic energy, and potential energy, that together in mathematical form is called Hamiltonian operator. So this Hamiltonian form a complete orthonormal basis vectors, and psi is an arbitrary state of the quantum particle system. So psi you are writing like this. So this is the expression also we have discussed earlier, that this wave function you are just spanning into basis vectors, and that basis vectors are phi I or eigenfunctions, and the wave function, actually you can think of that the sum of all the eigenstate, eigenfunction with their weightage, where the Ci, again another state, that is actually in general complex number. Okay, so this is what mathematically we express. So ultimately what we are trying to do, we need some kind of mathematical tool, because whenever we see that the Schrodinger wave equation, your dynamical variable or whatever the function you you solve from the Schrodinger wave equation, that is psi. And then suppose this psi is somehow you solve, and then you want to find certain measurement, you want to do some certain measurement. So in that case, what you expect? Mathematically, you want to actually develop the tools. So that is how we express like this. Okay. So phi I is the eigenstates, eigenfunctions, and we can say that each eigenfunctions the corresponding to certain basis vectors. And those basis vectors, in the previous class, we just explained that the basis vector should be orthonormal. If it is n-dimensional vector space, so you know this equation 39 should be maintained. That means this unit vectors along ith and jth direction, if you take dot product, that's a Kronecker delta function will be there. And overall, all this is the Hilbert space, how you define. And you want to define your wave function also like Hilbert space, right? So far so good. Now then you just try to understand that this, what is this equation 42 and 43, 42 and 43 you are getting, that thing we can infer, what you can infer, because you know that you have a wave function psi that is expressed in this form. Now you are operating, you want to find out what is a certain parameter you want to measure. So you have the operator, you know. So then that operator, if you just operate on it, even though there are several eigenfunctions are there, and but you are the eigenfunctions corresponding to certain certain operator will be there. So if you just operate on it, then entire wave function will be collapsed into that eigenfunction. Okay, so that is what it means. We can infer that the act of measurement collapses any arbitrary physical state, that is your psi wave function, in such a way that it emerges in the state with the eigenfunction corresponding to the result obtained. So before measurement, you have certain wave function is there. Now you want to measure certain thing, momentum for example. Then you want to operate on it. You operate means you are measuring. Once you measure, mathematically what you are supposed to get, mathematically you are getting that the function at the end of the measurement, entire wave function will be just reduced to a eigenfunction corresponding to that operator, and you in return you are getting the value, measured value as eigenvalue. Okay, before that, again if you just try to measure the same system, because you know that wave function already in that state, now immediately if you measure with that operator, you will get same value again and again. Okay, so that is the thing you should visualize first, that you have a wave function, and that wave function can have a combination of can be expanded into eigenstates, but each eigenstates corresponding to each measurable thing, certain value. It can be momentum, and that momentum can be in different direction also. Suppose I want to measure in this direction, whatever momentum is there. Okay. Suppose px, I want momentum along x direction. So if you measure momentum along x direction, right? So whatever value you get, but the wave function, entire wave function will be collapsed into the eigenstate along the x direction of the momentum. Okay, so that is what you need to know. But you should keep in mind also that if you prepare the system again in the previous situation, previously whatever psi was there, again you prepare this situation, or you can have a ensemble of systems, all are prepared in the same state of psi, and then if you measure each of them one by one, for example, so that time there is a chance that it will be collapsed into, if you are using same operator to all the constituents of the ensemble, then each time you will be getting eigenvalue and eigenfunction, but that eigenvalue will have certain kind of, it will have some kind of error, some kind of probability will be there. So that is what we need to quantify also. So this point, this bullet point, if you see, if any measurement corresponding to the operator O gives us a value of OI, that means eigenvalue, then the particle emerges with its physical state defined by the eigenfunction phi I. That is what repeatedly I am saying. Okay, that is for sure. Now, the probability of obtaining result OI for the particle with state psi can be found by expanding into its eigenstates for the operator O as in equation 43, that the last equation in the previous slide. It is then evident that the result OI will be obtained with a probability equal to Ci square. Because if you see this equation, that Ci phi I, so if your wave function, this psi is given to you and you are measuring such that your wave function is reduced to phi I, that means that phi I will have associated value will be Ci. Then the probability of that particular things, you know that the weightage is Ci. So whenever you are trying to take probability, then you have to take psi star. That means Ci star. Ci belongs to complex, so you get Ci square. So that will be your probability. Now, if the experiment is repeated many times on an ensemble of particles, that is what I said, each prepared in same state psi, the average of the result will be, I said that each time you measure, you may get different value. Okay, because the weightage can be, that measurement system can give you some kind of error. Okay, depending on your situation. Actually, thing is that it cannot really measure anything in a quantum system. You cannot measure anything without invasive things. So you are actually somehow invasing the system, and somehow you are changing the state, disturbing the system, and you are getting some measurement, right? So that disturbance is actually give you different value basically, though your outcome is the eigenstate will be same. You are measuring that same eigenstate because your operator is same. So as an outcome same eigenstate, but the eigenvalue that can have some kind of difference. Okay, so that if you do in that case, if you different all the ensembles you measure again and again, then you have to have your average value. What is the average expectation you supposed to get? So that thing also you can find mathematically with this expression given in 44. And we write like this, that expectation of this operator. Operator means that is the measuring quantity you are measuring, right? And you have psi star operating on psi, and then you integrate over entire space. So try to understand this thing a bit. I think a little bit of thinking is just instead of remembering this mathematical formula, if you just try to visualize what it is, that will help you to remember also that why it is called expectation actually. You know, if you just see, whenever you are operating on psi, that entire thing will give you a different value, right? It can be operating on psi, you can get OI phi I, something like that you will be getting. So it is something different than your psi, some different value you will be getting. Now that is also you are expressing in the same space, right? And you are just taking complex conjugate of the original wave function, and then you are multiplying. That means you are trying to find out and integrating, of course. You are trying to get what is the overlap of the wave function after your measurement. After your measurement, whatever you get this thing, that you are taking overlap with the original one. Okay, so that is actually overlap means it is also space dependent, because you are taking integration over space. If it is a particular time, you are measuring that also time dependent measurement you would expect. So this is actually certain thing you are, I said that I think earlier, we'll also see later that if you operate on a wave function, and that wave function you are expanding as a basis vector in Hilbert space, then if you operate, then this vector will rotate. That upon operation, the vector will be represented as a different vector. It will be different wave function. It will be. and after that thing, and you have to see that what is the weightage with the original one, and that actually sorry, overlap with the original one, that will give you your so-called expectation value of that measurement. Okay, so this is also, you see, this whenever you try to get also from your anything you average, normally you know what is the weightage you are getting for a certain measurement. Each time weightage you are getting, you measure, and then you are just adding them and you divide the total probability, then you get the average also. So if you see any averaging, any integration, if you are averaging, that is also similar type of formula we use. Okay, no, notation is something like that, average thing, expectation value, and mathematically you get it. Once you know psi, once you know operator, and after operating whatever you are getting, then you can calculate it, that what could be the expectation value. Okay, so thing is that you should remember that suppose you are measuring a momentum. So momentum operator, what is the momentum operator, you should know, and you know what is the solution of the quantum system psi, and then you just operate on this. And once you operate, if you know that their eigenstates, what would be their eigenstates, then corresponding operator will give you what is that state. Then you again take the overlap with the original one, then you get that measurement. That's it. So that is your expectation value. It can be momentum, it can be anything else. Position also. If it is position, you just try to get position here, x. Suppose it is one dimensional, then you can write x, and then here you will be writing x. So whenever x is the operator, you are operating on a x dependent psi function. That means it is a simple multiplication. Okay, then you integrate, then you get the expectation average value. I think that type of function you have seen maybe in many places, that if you are taking average of something, so you just take multiply this one and complex conjugate and then integrate. So that is in quantum mechanically it is called expectation value. All right, so that is what I just tried to spell out here. The average value can be obtained by integrating this over the entire space. This integration value is the expectation value for measurement or operator O. In general, it is not possible to measure a property of a given quantum system. In general, it is not possible to measure a property of a given quantum system and leave the system undisturbed. Once you measure, that is actually basically it is going to be disturbed. So once you operate on psi, then it is no more psi. It will be coming out as a one of the eigenstate corresponding to that operator. That means it is disturbed. Okay. But once it is disturbed and reduced to that eigenstate, again if you operate with the same operator, then you will get same value. At that time, same probability, same value, you will be getting eigenvalue, no problem. But if you have ensembles of system equally prepared each time and measure, that time you have so much problem. So this is basically called invasive one. There can be uncertainties in experimental measurement, even though the quantum state psi is prepared alike each time. That is what I meant. In other words, there can be an inherent uncertainty associated to any of the properties of the quantum system. So because of some inherent property will be there, natural phenomena, it may not be explained with proper physics, but there can be some uncertainty, and we say that that is the uncertainty, that is the some kind of uncertainty we have to follow. We have to live with it basically. So then that time, if that type of measurement uncertainty is there, then you know that you are many times you are measuring. So in that case, you know what is its average value, but you can also find out how much you are, each time you measure, how much you are deviating from your average value. So that is actually, you know, that is measured by a variance. Okay, so that variance is just a delta O. We express that variance delta O square average, and you see this is very clearly you can understand psi star psi is there, and then this O minus average of O, then you are taking square. That means this is actually your if you are taking this one psi star psi and then psi, that is actually average value, then you are one time measurement, and then you know what is the average value, and then you subtract that, and subtraction that can be actually negative, positive each time. Sometimes you can get more than the average value, sometimes you can get less than the average value. If you don't square it, if you just add them or integrate them, there is a high chance that you will get zero value. So that's why variance you are getting square. So plus minus, or every time, even though you are getting plus or minus, every time you are squaring it, you are just adding them. So in that case, that also you get total how many times you are measuring, and you average that, then you get the variance. So these are the mathematical, if you know the wave functions and if you know the operator, and then you can find out what is the possible variance in your all sorts of measurement. Each time you measure, how much you are getting. So this is actually, it can be shown that that's if you know this, you take average of square of the operator measurement. That means whenever you are writing O square, that means in this expression you have to write O square, double operator square will be there, and then that will be actually, you will be writing that is O square average. Okay, operator square. So that is the O square average you are taking, and then this one is whatever you are getting, this one you square it. So then that is actually called the variance. So if you know this one, and if you can calculate this one, if you can calculate this one, then you can get the variance. Okay, that actually you can I think normally probability class or statistics classes, normally these are taught actually. At this point of time, I'm not going into details, but these expressions frequently used. So now thing is that we have somewhat understand that how to deal with quantum system, quantum particle, actually electron-like quantum particle that actually follow your Schrodinger wave equation, and that Schrodinger wave equation will very quickly show that fortunately that is a linear equation. Okay, like whenever you see the Maxwell's, how it is linear, I just try to give you what is the difference. You should differentiate the linearity and non-linearity, linear equation and non-linear equations. I think Maxwell's equation is a good example. In general, Maxwell equation is linear. So if you try to see that from the Maxwell's wave equation we have discussed earlier, very first equation in the first slide, if you see equation 1, starting from 4 Maxwell's equations, we derive the wave equation, and this is just a wave equation. I have written down here, just putting, assuming sigma equal to 0, so that it is easier to understand. You can put down sigma not equal to 0, one more term will be there, you remember that. Okay, so in general, if it is a homogeneous isotropic medium, this is the wave equation, and this wave equation we derive from the Curl equations, right? So curl E equal to this one, and again you take curl, and then finally get this equation. So this equation is a linear equation. Why it is in linear equation? You know, suppose you get one particular solution of electric field, and that will satisfy this one. If you find another equation, another solution for E also satisfying this equation, then their sum also will be also satisfying this equation. So suppose you have one solution E1 and another solution E2, and this E1 and E2 you can distinguish maybe two different polarization, or E1 and E2 maybe you can think that they are plane wave propagating in different direction, not only electric field direction, they can be propagating in same direction, but polarization can be different. One can be X direction, another can be Y direction. Or E1 and E2, they are same polarization, but propagating, one is X direction, another may be Z direction. Each of them, if it is individually solution for this equation, their sum also will be a solution for this equation. And if you have a E1 is a solution, and if you multiply E1 with a scalar quantity, some alpha E1 also will be a solution. So this any equation actually satisfying this type of condition, that is called linear equation. If you see the Maxwell's equation, it is just this is we derived by considering this thing. Okay, and of course here you see that E is a vector for sure. You can consider E as a scalar if your solution is only having one component. Suppose instead of Ex, Ey, Ez, and your reference axis is known, and it is only oscillating along X direction and propagating along Z direction. So then you can treat it as a scalar, and only information is that you know that it is one dimension, polarization along X direction, it will be propagating maybe in Z direction and so on. So that with that also we know that whatever solution we get, E, that is a real value. But for mathematical easiness, we use this type of solution. You remember that? We have used this type of, it's a complex form we have used. But this is just because we want to handle it mathematically, very simple. If it is exponential, it is very easy to differentiate, integrate, that's easier things. Okay. Ultimately, when we want to know what is the electric field, at the end of the day, you can just take a real part of it. Okay. So that is, E field is, in principle, the solutions you can consider real. Not only E field, magnetic field also real. And this D field, if you calculate, as long as epsilon is the scalar quantity, not complex, real part, then it is also real. Everything, E, D, H, B, all are real in principle. Okay, when you measure, that is real, and mathematically also you can express them in real. So that is the difference between Maxwell's equation and Schrodinger equation. I will be discussing very soon. But as long as you express these things and you express D equal to like this, then it is a linear. But you know, this Maxwell's equation, it has certain property. It is actually material dependent. This mu epsilon is there. They are actually involving material. Sometimes this material has certain kind of property such that this displacement vector, when you express that whatever electric field, external electric field that is coming out of electromagnetic wave, and then this polarization that is actually coming because internally you can have some kind of dipole creation because of the electric field. You can have some kind of dipole oscillation, and that dipole oscillation will create some kind of so-called polarization density, polarization vector. And that polarization vector together, if you combine, that is actually called displacement vector. And normally P, simply we write, and most of the electromagnetics book, if you see, they will be writing this P will be in this form. That P means P is equal to epsilon 0 multiplied by chi times E. So that means this polarization is simply proportional to E, right? And then we can write like that. Okay, so that is actually this chi, this is called susceptibility, and together 1 plus chi we call it epsilon r, and that is actually square root, if you take, that is refractive index. That is what we know from the normal electromagnetic theory. Any electromagnetic books you know. However, you see this chi is heavily material dependent. Okay, and actually nothing in this world is so simple, real and linear. Actually the polarization, if you see, that can be expressed in this form. So first term, that means, you know, anything not linear, you can actually expand that at a certain point. If you have a certain electric field, certain value of electric field, around that you can expand that into Taylor series. to include that whatever all the nonlinearity is there. So this polarization actually, if you just expand into Taylor series, I think these are the coefficients, and then you know e square, e to the power 3, e to the power 4, and so on, it will come. These are actually Taylor coefficients. First order derivative, second order derivative, and so on will be there. So this is basically, we express P polarization in terms of this that originates from the Taylor expansion, because we are seeing that polarization density is not linear. Okay, that means not directly proportional to E. Instead of that, some kind of polynomial type things are there. So we write instead of e square, e3, e to the power 3, and these are the coefficient. Susceptibility also, that means first order derivative, second order derivative, and also you know that those factorials, all those type of things comes in Taylor series expansion. And instead of E3, so we write that this 3 electric field may not be coming from same frequency. Maybe 3 different source. They can also interact like this. So that's why we are writing side by side. Okay. There can be different frequency, there can be different polarization, they can be coming from different sources, and they can be also from the same source. That means if it is the same source, and if you are treating that, that means it will be e to the power 3. Then fine. But whenever we are writing like this, they are coming from different source. Their frequency can be different. So in that case, we just what we could do, that if this chi2 is much lower than chi1, we just ignore. Chi3 even lower, all the higher, it is actually converging series, you know, most of the time. So in that case, we have to see how far for a particular material, how far we can actually accept. Okay. But whenever you are doing very high power, even though they are small, if power is high, that means your electromagnetic wave strength is more, then you see this term maybe come out, this term, they can come with some kind of reasonable strength. Maybe some value you cannot ignore. So in that case, you have to use. So normally we can just decompose it into 2 terms. First term is the P linear, that means polarization term. That is what we are just considering here, P. That is the PL. And if you have to consider all the other terms together, we write that as a P nonlinear. Okay. Now if you use this one in your Maxwell's equation here, instead of P, if you write PL plus P nonlinear, okay, then what you get this equation. I'm sorry that here, yeah, this in this equation here, right hand side there should be one mu will be there, because you know that mu epsilon is there, so together mu will be there. Here mu should be multiplied, so you get this equation. So this is actually not a linear equation, you know. In this PNL, you see you will have e square and e to the power 3 and so on. So whenever E1 is a solution, E2 is a solution, E1 plus E2, if you just do, that is actually because of the nonlinearity will be coming, multiplication term will come also. And that may not be E1 plus E2 may not be a solution. So that is actually nonlinear solution. So nonlinear equation. But simply if you just ignore this one, then it is a linear. And most of the time, fortunately, though we'll be using sometimes for quantum mechanical, so as a quantum mechanical source, this equation will be useful to for certain quantum photonics devices. But once that you are getting a photon as a quantum state, then, and if you are using certain kind of normal linear optics, they are in a photon level, the, you know, power strength is very low. So in that case, you can ignore and you can use only this equation, and using that equation, whatever transfer function comes, you can use, and that is actually linear. So normally photon state manipulation, everything you are doing, and you can actually sometimes rely on the device which could be designed classically using Maxwell's equation. The same classical device we will see that we can use for quantum state of light. We'll be discussing that. And that is actually, that will follow a linear rule. All right. Now, so this is a nonlinear exercise. I think perhaps you know that normally, classical mechanics, this is all we are talking about, electrodynamics and quantum mechanics. And classical mechanics also, if you see, normally it is heavily dependent on your Newton's second law, right? So that Newton's second law, if you see, that actually most of the time, whenever you are going for very complicated potential, uh, that is actually non-linear equation. If you see the Newton's law, that Newton's law is force equal to negative derivative of potential. F equal to, or normally E, E means what? E means electric field means equal to minus dV dx, right? There also Newton's law, if you see, the force equal to m d2x by dt2, if it is one dimensional. D2x by dt2 is your, I think you try to visualize. I don't have any option here to write, but you can visualize that force on a mass m, if it is subjected to move in one direction, then m times d2x by dt2, that is actually equal to negative derivative of the potential, right? If potential is phi x, that minus d phi dx, that is the potential. So you know that negative derivative gives your oscillation. Even simple harmonic oscillator, if you start from the Newton's law, that actually will come out as a that type of formula, m d2 dx, d2x by dt2 equal to half m omega square x square. Fortunately, that potential we found there, that it is proportional to x square. So in that case, somewhat the linearity holds. But many times you will find that potential may not be a function of x square or x, or it can be function of x to the power 3, x to the power 4. So negative derivative of x to the power 3 means x square. So whenever that square term comes, that is actually your linear, non-linear. So classical mechanics relatively actually difficult to solve compared to your whatever the Maxwell's equation here, and we can see for the Schrodinger wave equation as well. So now the Schrodinger wave equation, I said that both Maxwell's wave equation as well as Schrodinger wave equation, Maxwell's wave equation under certain condition is linear, and Schrodinger wave equation is definitely a linear equation. Okay, so if you just try to recollect your Schrodinger wave equation, you know that I think we know that minus del square h cut square by 2m and so on, this time dependent part equal to time dependent part, time independent, time dependent, and then this equation. So one term is the right hand side is the IH cut, del psi del t. You remember that left hand side was the space dependent and right hand side is the space dependent, means the kinetic energy plus potential energy equal to IH cut del t, and equal to, we have put down that E times psi. E times psi we are considering that thing, but that E times psi we are ignoring. Instead of that, the space dependent whatever kinetic energy and momentum was there, that we write as a Hamiltonian operator. So this Hamiltonian operator is, you know, that is actually a function of momentum as well as potential. That potential can be anything, x square, a function of x square, x to the power 3, or whatever dimension can be. But that is together clubbed with this Hamiltonian operator. But how here our dynamical variable is not x. In Newton's law, you remember that your dynamical variable, you want to find out what is the position, x as a function of time. But here we want to find out psi, and the potential is fixed. Whatever function it is fixed, that depends on your momentum. But our variable is now psi. And that Schrodinger equation, if you see here, also, of course, that equation was given by Schrodinger, and he preferred to put this I here, IH cut, and that is how all the mathematical derivations, everything he could explain. And yeah, So if you see this equation, this is also a linear equation, because the operator, of course, there's all the derivative etc is there, but that Hamiltonian is actually linear, and del t also it is a linear, because you know, if you have a psi 1 plus psi 2, you can have del psi 1 del 2 plus del psi 2 del 2. You can just that can be a solution also. So this time they are also psi 1 plus psi 2 if it is there. So h plus h psi 1 plus h psi 2. So you can write that. That's a linear. And if psi is multiplied by c, that is also solution of this thing. So this is a linear also. So it is also a linear equation, but solutions for psi have to be complex because you have I here. So it is an imposition that the psi, whatever you are using in Schrodinger equation, the solution must have to be complex because I involved. So imaginary part that involves here. Though the h cut is real, but I think you have I, that is fine. You know h real, that I is there. So no way that you can get rid of I. So I is there. So if you write down this equation, you just write down this way. You just take left hand side and we write like this and 0, and we just together we write that is actually L psi. So where L is this one, it's a linear operator for psi. That means we can write like this: L psi 1 this thing, and if multiplied C, then C times L psi. So this is actually linear. So conclusion is that psi is necessarily complex quantity and can be treated as a vector. In the Maxwell's equation, if you see, you have E field is the linear, that equation is linear, and E also vector. But here the psi, though we are not writing any vector sign here, it is some function, and this R position, it can be one dimension X, it can be one dimension Y. R vector can be there, but psi need not be a vector. We cannot say psi is a complex. We don't know what it is actually. We cannot really picturize psi. Okay, we cannot give a sketch of psi. That is the whole point here. We cannot say that, but in spite of that, we can actually treat this psi like a vector quantity, because we know that the psi can be expanded into your in the basis vector in Hilbert space. So each of this component can be a basis vector. So n-dimensional vector earlier also we have discussed, and here we just, for the completeness, we are saying that psi is a complex, simultaneously it can be treated as a vector. So just considering vector, you don't need to be worried, because always you know that handling scalar is easier compared to vector things, because you have to think of all these directions, everything is there, you have to handle all those things. So, but the thing is that you will find that if you just consider psi as a vector, just using the postulation of linear algebra, you can solve many things. Okay, just you need a common sense of vector algebra. Okay, fine. So we understand that this psi is a vector quantity. You can treat as a vector, and it is of course a complex. Okay, so now you just think about that. That instead of just make sure that the psi is a solution of your Schrodinger equation, and it is a complex. You have a mathematical expression, but you cannot picturize. Only way that we can picturize, we can imagine in an abstract way that it is a vector. Okay, but you should keep in mind that there is a solution. You can express mathematically. You can express psi mathematically, which is a function of x, t, and I involves all those type of things. Only you can not give a picture. That's it. Okay. So you cannot give a particular point, this is psi or something like that. You cannot give that thing. So to handle that psi mathematically, though you know that what is the function psi mathematically, but to treat them for using this psi as a vector and complex thing, we actually, famous scientist Paul Dirac, he first time started using a special symbol called Bra and Kate. Okay, Bra and Kate. I think there is an Indian edition of his book is there also. Quantum mechanics book is there. So that quantum mechanics books, I think I think Indian edition, I think not so expensive also, 300, 400 rupee. So you can buy that, and he first time used, and this is now widely used for all sorts of quantum analysis, particularly quantum computation, quantum key distribution, communication, everything. We use Bra and Kate instead of simply psi, because that's a different type of mathematical tool, mathematical formalism developed, just utilizing this symbol. But origin of this psi, that is coming out of that Schrodinger wave equation. You should not forget that. Okay, that is there. Suppose you have a psi. Okay, now because it is a complex, wave function is a complex, so you can find its complex conjugate. And this complex conjugate, again, it's an abstract thing. Original solution is psi, but we can think of some existence of its complex conjugate mathematically. Okay. Actually, psi, complex conjugate, you can just consider. Because sometimes if you use complex conjugate, then your mathematical fluidity will be easier. So you can do a lot of calculation easily, just considering complex conjugate. Okay. So they are actually expressed like this. The psi, you are symbolizing like this. This is called Kate vector. So we will read it like that, Kate psi. So some symbol, and this symbol, it is called Kate psi. And if you take its complex conjugate, right, psi, whatever thing is there, that abstract way, whatever you are thinking for mathematical process, mathematical derivations, etc., you will be using. It is something like that, whenever you use Maxwell's equation, you use exponential term e to the power I, something like that, just for mathematical easiness. So here also we introduce another one, psi, that is complex value of this one, and we represent that one. Whenever you are taking complex conjugate of this psi, and psi is represented by this Kate vector, Kate symbol, then this one will be represented by so-called Bra psi. We will be calling it as a Bra psi. This is Kate psi, this is Bra psi. Okay, this means complex conjugate, and this is this. Now onwards, most of the time we will be using this symbol, right? Though we know that psi is a complex value, it can be multidimensional, it can be position dependent, everything. That function is known to you, and that sometimes you can express this thing in this form for solving more complex system. But originally you have to calculate from the normal Schrodinger wave equation. Okay, that closing of bracket, that is called bracket, okay, implies integration. So that means, you see, if you write like this, one psi wave function, another is phi. It can be two different wave function of the same system. You can consider two wave function, two solutions you can imagine also. Okay, two different way you prepare that quantum system. So to know how much you have deviated from the original state, psi or phi, or maybe two wave function is there, you want to say their correlation, how much they are overlapping each other. So that overlap function is, we normally write like this, right? Okay, that means psi star and phi. So where overlapping means the region where both psi and phi is non-zero. Those non-zero region, you just value is there, because one of them zero means everything is zero. So non-zero region, whatever the value, you multiply and integrate. So that is actually called so-called, we'll be calling this as a inner product. Okay. So this is sometimes called overlap integral. Whenever you want to see the overlap integral, because psi function is there, phi function is there, and you have solved from the Schrodinger equation, but the value is known. That value we can write down in this form. This symbol will write, and that value will be writing. And with that value, we can go for more complex mathematical calculations. So that's the whole idea. So similarly, the expectation value earlier we defined. Expectation value earlier we defined. That is what? This is the expectation value. We know. You remember that expectation means we are a psi star operating on this. That's the psi expectation value. But with bracket symbol, we will be writing like this. Okay. So this is the. So you see, whenever you are putting that bra symbol, bra psi, that means psi star, and K simple psi, and O is like this. So we are putting like this. Okay. So that is whenever we will be just mentioning that expectation value. Immediately you should feel that expectation value means you are measuring many times, preparing your quantum state in same various ensembles you are preparing, and ensembles of quantum state, I would say. You're preparing and measuring, and then you are getting expectation value, and that symbolized like this. Mathematically, we'll be writing like this. Okay, and of course, you remember that the psi, K psi, and bra psi, these actually again, it's nothing but it's you can represent them like a vector with n dimension. You can have huge number of dimension up to infinity also, but finite. Normally, we'll be working with the finite things. Okay, so that is your so-called expectation value, and then the operator, whatever the operator we are using, this is most important part. Sometimes if you don't understand mathematically, it is very good that okay, you can write operator in matrix form like this. But if you try to understand a little bit qualitatively, you will get very important aspects of equation 58. You see, the matrix elements for the operator O of a eigenfunction psi n can be defined according to this one. You see, this n and m is nothing but corresponding to psi n and psi m. Instead of entire wave function, you write this whatever the subscript. That means it is one of the basis vector. It can be one of the basis vector of psi n. Another basis vector is psi m. Okay, so I can write n m like this, right? N m means I can write n equal to 1, m equal to 1, n equal to 1, m equal to 2, right? That means if I just, for example, you just follow this equation 57. Suppose I have a eigenstate psi 1, another eigenstate psi 2. Okay, then I will be writing 1, 2, O here. Okay, that will give you a number basically. Because you have an operator, you are operating on psi 2 and multiplying on psi 1, then all this psi function known from Schrodinger equation, you are just integrating, you are getting a value. That particular value you can symbolize it as 1, 2 over operator 1, and that can be a matrix element because n can be 1 to n, a certain number, suppose 10 values you are considering. N can run from 1 to 10 and m also can run from 1 to 10. So it can be 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, and so on. Here also it will be running up to 10, and here also it will be running up to 10 if you are considering 10. So that means you will be getting all the elements corresponding to n 1 to 10, m 1 to 10. And those can be written in a matrix form. So that means this, we can say that whatever this overlap or operating expectation value you are supposed to get, that can be actually written down in a matrix form, right? That is matrix element for the operator. So now you see your operator, all the elements you can write down in matrix form, and your psi can be you can write in a vector form. Now matrix and vector. So now if you want to process, want to do some mathematical process for the complex systems. So if you know all the matrices and all the vectors, then you just use simple linear algebra. Only thing is that the root of the all this quantum mechanics is this thing: expectation value, overlap, psi, Schrodinger equation. That is in the main things. Okay, so we can use all this formalism here. Similarly, whenever this is whatever we are talking about quantum particle, like electron, which has mass, all those type of things, which follows Schrodinger equation. Similarly, we know we have sometimes we are integrating into Maxwell's equations, where we have already introduced that the Maxwell's equation and whatever solutions gives electromagnetic wave, Poynting theorem, energy flow. Ultimately, they are actually comprised of a stream of photons, and they are actually quantum particle. And those quantum particle also we can consider like a psi. That photon also we can consider like a psi, and there also we can use the operator also same way. So this bracket notation, it is universally used for photon as well as for your electrons, quantum particles also, normal things. So these things will be using for certain applications, certain derivations, etc. in course of time. So today I think we can stop here, and I will follow this thing little bit, how these vectors and matrices are formed a little bit. I will discuss maybe tomorrow, and then we can, because this chapter is going to be a little bit longer. Maybe after completing this chapter, this wave mechanics and quantum states, we will be conducting so-called quiz 1, online quiz 1 exam we will be conducting. So you should be, I think I asked also Arnab and Ramon to prepare another assignment. Maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow they will be uploading. So based on this quantum mechanics related quantum formalisms, bracket and expectation values, normalization, of course, we discussed earlier how to normalize and what are the normalization conditions required. Those normalization conditions required because to satisfy Schrodinger equation, those things also you keep on learning. And if you have doubt also, you can just post message in Moodle, WhatsApp, and I think Arnab and Ramon will try to give answers if I am not able to. So whenever necessary, I can also discuss with you. So okay, if you have any questions, you can quickly ask. Otherwise, tomorrow we can start. I think normally in between during the class, no one asking question. That is also not good. I think now onwards, what I will do in between in the middle, I will stop and I will ask couple of questions, and so that I can come to know that whether you are really listening me or not. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Hi, sir.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, sir. Could you just elaborate on what is that physical significance of that matrix element that you were mentioning about?
Yeah,
That, yeah.
that I will follow up in the next class.
Ah,
So
okay, sir.
that I'm going to discuss, of course. I think don't worry about that. But this matrix, how matrix elements will be coming and how to operate on that, that will be discussed a couple of classes needed. Actually, if you see that, if you go to a quantum mechanics class, any quantum mechanics class, I think then I think it's a whole lot of all these matrix formalisms will be there. But in this course, whatever necessary part is there, I'll be discussing, and then I'll go to the main topic. Okay. It's not entire thing is all this quantum physics, quantum mechanics we will be discussing. Whatever the tool required, and particularly the formalism needed for our understanding of quantum states of light and quantum photonics devices, that I will be discussing. Yeah. Okay. And I think that's good enough. I think this and if you learn this thing, I think also it will be easier also to understand hardcore quantum mechanics subject as well. Okay. So maybe whatever I discussed today, if it is not clear, I think tomorrow first couple of minutes I suggest you come up with questions, then we can discuss and then we can follow up. All right. Who was asking question? Bhavani.
No,
Vaibhavi. Tell me.
No, before me, Anjana asked. Sir,
Okay.
assignment 1, second half was not discussed. So will that be done before assignment 2?
I think Arnav and Ramon, they will be uploading answer sheet.
Okay, okay, okay.
So they have discussed. I think I suppose that whenever any assignment is given, I suggest that if it is a typo error or something like that, you can ask whether it's a typo error. But you should, before submission, you should not ask how to solve. Okay, because how to solve, that is the task given to you. You scratch your head, think a bit. Ultimately, we will be giving solution. Okay, but I think nowadays, nowadays in everything, I should okay, everything actually consider what you call online, Google, everything. You are getting all the information. If suddenly you don't know anything, you suddenly search and you get the answer, you write down. Very little time you get to think, and most of you are not thinking much. So I suggest that you, even if you Google also, after you think first and then Google and ask, then your learning will be complete. Just something you are not getting immediately, you should not ask for the answer from others. Yeah, just think. At least overnight, you just think, and you are not getting, and then ultimately answers will be coming. Whatever you can solve, you solve, upload, and then solution will be given, and with that you can just correlate your thinking, the way you are thinking and the answer given, you can just correlate, and then your understanding will be complete. So that way I prefer actually. Is that okay? All right, right? uh, okay, fine. I think no other question. Maybe any other question is there? No, then fine.